Sunday money, I'm feeling fly. Walking down the street.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Phil, I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to be here. This is an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. You've interviewed a lot of people. You are the host of the Silicon Valley podcast, and I understand you just started your own. Tell me.
I just actually launched my own investment bank. For now, it's my broker-dealer of record, but my bank is called Silicon Valley High Point Capital, or SVH Capital, based here in Silicon Valley. So it's my own little startup in a way.
Very cool. Okay, so we're gonna have like a totally chill chat, but I think you're required to do a little disclaimer up front, right? So go for it.
Yes, yes. So the views expressed on this podcast are for informational purposes only and not financial or legal advice. Consult with a professional for your specific situations. The views expressed are my own and not necessarily reflect the views of Finalis Inc. or Finalis Securities LLC, members FINRA SIPC. Phil, thank you for letting me say that.
Hey, I'm glad you got it out of the way. So let's talk about your background. I found you on YouTube, like a lot of people do. You've interviewed hundreds of people in and around sort of Silicon Valley and entrepreneurship. I watched your Brian Will interview, and you just did a guy named John Bissick. But before that, you were like traveling the world. So where are you from, and how did you end up in Costa Rica, and what was it, China and Europe? What was that all about?
Yeah, so when I was in uh, uni, I really wanted to do a semester abroad, but my major was mechanical engineering. And when I was talking to people about that, they said, yeah, you could do it, but you'll be far behind on graduating. And I just couldn't make it line up. So the entire time I was there, I just kept thinking, I want to travel, I want to travel, I want to travel. And then I had the opportunity after I graduated. I had a friend in the Peace Corps in Costa Rica. And she was like, well, we're looking for English teachers in our town. And there's some others, things around that situation that led me to go, well, I'm unemployed. I just graduated. I'm not doing anything. And I've been wanting to travel for years now. This is an opportunity. And I thought I was going to go for, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months at the max. Was there almost 2 years. While I was there, there was Chinese call centers opening up in Costa Rica, similar time zones. English and Spanish are spoken there. They thought, okay, we have Chinese call centers. That's half the world's population. And this was back in 2007. I went, oh my gosh, China's taking over the world. So I went from Costa Rica. I wanted to learn the language and culture, everything I did in Costa Rica, but over in China. So I moved to China, was there almost 5 years total. In that time, I went to Europe for a bit and then back to China. But total, I was overseas for about 8 years before coming back to Silicon Valley. Now, I have traveled quite a bit since coming back to Silicon Valley, but nothing living abroad. A lot of 2 weeks here, 2 weeks back, kind of
Yeah.
kind of travels.
So where were you in China? Which city?
I was based in Beijing, but I've traveled the whole East Coast. So any major city from Harbin down to Shandong, I've been to pretty much every city. I mean, I've really explored the province of Shandong quite a bit, but people are surprised because for the most part, I think I've been to more cities than 99% of people in China. So
Yeah. So okay, what'd you do to make money while you were there?
I had a couple businesses. The first few failed. Not sure if you guys want to hear the stories of those.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, well, the first one, okay. So I had several businesses, but I'll mention three because only three got big enough to actually really say anything about. The first one was one of my first roommates in China. He worked at Yahoo, and him and his buddies were these great engineers, and they had extra bandwidth. And they're like, okay, well, you have connections in Silicon Valley. Why not we be the outsourced overseas dev team for them? So
Hmm.
we were, creating code and all other stuff for Silicon Valley companies in China. And remember, this at this time, this was 2008. And the problem was like, so one day, I just paid everyone. At that time, I had one manager and 8 programmers. It was still small, but it was growing. And he's all smiling. I was like, dude, why are you so happy? Like, he's like, oh, they're gonna have to pay us again. I was like, what do you mean they're gonna have to pay us again? Like, the project's done. I mean, sure, they'll I'm sure we did great work. They'll hire us again. And I'm not a coder, so I don't know anything of, what they're
Yeah.
actually doing. And he's like, no, 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 they're gonna have to pay us again to fix the software. I was like, wait, what? He's
Oh,
like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We put bugs in it, so now they're gonna have to pay us to fix it.
oh God.
And everything like time stopped right there. I couldn't
Wow.
believe it. I was like, are you kidding me? You purposely? He's like, yeah. Long story short, that company, after a week of me trying to get a hold of them, we're basically like, you're lucky. We're not going to sue you. We're just not, we're not going to do business with you ever again. Don't contact us. And I was
Yeah.
like, I understand. And, and of course, after that, there's no trust. So I couldn't work with the team. That just ended right there.
Right.
Then the second business that kind of took off, and I had so much hope for this one. And this was pretty funny. It was called Last 4 Seconds. It was so I trained at the China Top Team, which was this MMA gym where John Chitren and the top Chinese fighters trained at. And long story short, I was eating, street food, and this huge Brazilian guy, 6'3", standing next to me. He's like, "Hey, you come to gym, teach me English. English not so good. You train." I was like, well, you're a huge dude and I'm tiny and it's a small community. You'll find out if I don't show up. Sure, I'll train. And it was perfect timing too, because the gym I was at had just closed down, so I was looking for a place to work out. So I went there. As a normal person starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I got beat up every day
Ooh.
until I you know, basically got beat up last, still got beat up every day, but it was fun. And the vision was so no one from China Top Team or China had fought in the UFC at that point. They were, you know, Singapore MMA champions. They were this group champions, all these, but none of them had fought in the UFC. John Chichuan, he was scheduled to fight. And I was looking at this going, okay, if he fights in the UFC, this is going to blow up in China. And I was looking at Tap Out, the clothing company in the US, thinking, okay, I'm going to model them. They sponsored fighters, they wore their clothes, became this billion-dollar brand. Love it. So, me and a person at the gym, Yang Hongong, he was my business partner, and we created the clothing, the gear, everything for it. And we're like, yeah, we're going to sponsor everyone at the gym. This is going to be great. John Chutren, he went on. Um, uh, it was QQ, which was prior to WeChat, and he crashed the server on his interview.
Wow.
And at that time, we're like, this, like we're counting dollar signs in our head.
Yeah.
And so he fights in the UFC. First fight, he wins. You know,
Wow.
everything is perfect for us. We're in China. We're celebrating. Like, yeah, we're gonna be so rich. This is gonna be great. And the company who we're trying to model Tap Out in the locker room gives him an offer, then gives everyone at the gym an offer.
Oh God.
And of course, the company that we were modeling, we're like, oh, this is who we want to be. Took us all out in like this, the signing of a piece of paper. Not a single person was loyal there. Everyone was like, oh, the money, great, let's do this.
Uh, so
And
what
so,
what about like doing business over there? Like, do you bank accounts and shit like that? Were how did you do that? This is your second business in China. Did
yeah,
you have any issues with that or was that fine?
I mean, at the time, this is before everything was digital payment. I mean, so much there was just cash in hand. And,
Wow.
no, there'd be the price if there was a receipt, and there'd be the price if there was not the receipt, kind of way business was being done. And plus, I also had a Chinese business partner for it.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was like, okay, so we got you kind of handling that. Pretty much everything's cash in hand. I mean, we were able to make everything work. And for that, I mean, getting relationships to the factory to produce the goods and all that, it's all someone's family, someone's relationships.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and then the third company that actually did okay, this, was actually profitable. I made more money that, leaving China than entering China. It started off as a staffing company for universities because they wanted the foreigners to teach classes, but they couldn't provide the work visas. So they came to us, and we had a contract with a company that would sponsor the work visas, and then we would, staff them out to the university. So a lot of the universities, the major ones you'd hear about, the top ones, their foreign teachers were from us. And then that grew to provide teachers for, at the time, they were publicly traded English companies, Sindon Fanghua GA, for their summer and winter camps. And
Yeah.
then from that, we had all these foreigners, and it was, okay, what do we do with them the rest of the time? And that's when we started really making money because people would want foreigners to be extras in movies, to do voiceover work, to
Oh,
do,
interesting.
give awards at science fairs, to do this, do that. And we had an abundance of foreigners that weren't teaching between the summer and winter camps that could do this, voiceover training for
Yeah.
this company, or, um, you know, be sit in front of the window of a brand new restaurant. So if anyone walked by, they would see all these foreigners dining there and instantly think
Interesting.
this is a
Yeah.
great restaurant, and or go to some type of fashion show and just have foreigners there and them announce, "Oh, we have our guest flying all the way from France for this event," or whatever it was, cut a ribbon for a fishing pole factory opening. Like, you name it, it was okay. You want some foreigners there?
That's
We
so
we can
funny. That is
provide.
so funny you mentioned that because one of my former coworkers, a really talented artist he's Chinese and he lives in Los Angeles, but he bought a condo in I think it's called Guangzhou. Is that
Guangzhou? Yeah.
yeah, okay? So, and then he like showed me the brochure, this beautiful condo, but like all the people in the brochure are like American or European. There were no Chinese people in the brochure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. And it worked. He bought a place.
Oh, it's such a status thing. Like, because, gosh, I remember I had a buddy in China. This is a hilarious story for your listeners. He um he worked at an English school, but he never taught a single class. His entire job was to sit in the waiting room and read magazines, so that anyone that would come in.
That's hysterical. So let me skip ahead for a second. So where are you from?
Oh, the Bay Area.
Oh,
So grew up
okay.
in the Bay
So yeah,
Area.
I was gonna ask you how you ended up. I assume you're in San Jose or you're in the San Francisco area
Yeah, yeah,
now.
right between San. I'm a little bit south of San Francisco Airport, but yeah, yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area, went to school in San Diego. Then after living overseas, families here, it just made sense to move back here. Um,
Yeah.
I do kind of think I should have moved to San Diego, but it's one of those decisions you never know.
San Diego's great.
It's beautiful. Gosh, I
Yeah.
was there just last year, and it's developed so much in the last 20 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's got perfect weather. Okay, so you had one more failed business, right? Or one more success.
Oh,
No, that was the third one.
no,
You told me
no,
the
the
third one.
staffing one actually
Staffing one,
succeeded.
yeah.
I sold my percentage to my business partner before coming back to the US. So that uh that was actually a win. That was
So, so when yeah, and I got plenty of those to do. So feel your pain. So you come back. Why did you decide to come back to the States after all that time overseas?
I mean, two reasons. Uh I was really planning on moving back around that time, just because what I'd seen was, as a foreigner, you could grow a business to a certain size and then eventually it gets taken away from you. And I had a lot of contacts there that, once they got to their third location, or that something would happen where a business partner would come in one day, or this or that. It's never really yours there. And I was seeing the business that I was working on with my business partner just growing, and getting that same feeling of, okay, one day I could spend 5, 10 years here building this out, and one day it could just be taken. So why am I putting in, these 12, 14-hour days to do this? It just didn't make sense. So I was already thinking of leaving. And then my dad had a heart attack, and then that was the final
Mm,
catalyst. I had to come back, help out my family,
right.
and so that was it. Then came back to the U.S.
So then you came back, and then you've been doing your Silicon Valley podcast for a while. And then what did you do? I mean, What have you been doing? Like, what was your day job, I guess I should say.
Oh, I mean, I had a lot of different things. So I've been back now for what, 12 years? So it's been a good amount of time. In that, I've had so many different jobs in that time. When I first came back, I wasn't in the best shape either. So I was like, okay, what job could I actually make money and get in shape? So I was personal trainer for a year,
Oh, that's funny.
and that was a ton of fun. And actually, I learned so much about uh, breaking down problems, working backwards from goals, all these things, dealing with people, kind of managing. I mean, really, being a personal trainer, I think, is one of those things where everyone should do once in their lifetime for a short amount of time. Also, I think, doing some type of sales role or teaching a course or class, there's a lot of things that I think you get so much growth out of, like living abroad, that I
Yeah.
highly recommend it for everyone. So I was personal trainer for a little while. Then worked at a startup. From that startup, I met a bunch of angel investors. I started volunteering at an angel group. Later, I became the investment director and then actually a past president of the group. And also during that time, I was helping companies from Silicon Valley set up in tech parks in China. This is before the trade war,
Wow.
and that pivoted into investment banking. So I've had you know bunch of different things over the years, but it's all been around helping companies at different sizes, different
Hmm.
stages grow and seeing how, best practices, what works, what doesn't work, kind of culture, financials, a lot of, I mean, gosh, when I was at the Angel Group doing as the investment director, I was looking at 60 to 80 pitch decks a month and
Oh my God.
filtering that down to, 12 companies to bring in and then five or six to actually present to the members. And of course, every member was brutally honest with any write up or report or anything I did. One of my favorite stories is I did this write up for this one insurance tech company, a wearable IoT device. This was, Fitbit time and stuff like that when that was all big. And one of the guys, came up to me the next day at the meeting. He's like, Shawn, that report you did. Oh my gosh, that was incredible. We were talking about it all last night at the bar. I was like, really? And I was like, so excited. He goes, we've never laughed so hard in our life. You missed this. And,
Uh-huh.
guy just tore me apart. And but I learned a lot. And at the time I was very upset, but later on I was like, he was right on everything he said.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
imagine every day having to talk to a room of people that are former CEOs that have taken companies public, that have done, I mean, on the boards of these public, just that feedback that I was getting, I couldn't get that anyplace else. It was incredible.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So, okay, so now this is going to bring me around to the reason why I reached out to you. And thanks again for agreeing to do this. But what is an investment banker? What I don't even know what that explain that. Like if I was in grade school.
perfect. So I mean, an investment banker is a pretty umbrella term. You'll A lot of people think of it as those movies where people are yelling and shouting that's one side. But think of it this way. You go through life, you meet that special someone, two equals become one, you get married. Well, that marriage of two equals, that's a merger of two companies. Okay, so now you're hand in hand and you see a puppy and you go, "Oh my gosh, this little puppy I want to bring into our big house." So you buy that puppy, you acquire that puppy, that's an acquisition. A little company going into this big company. And then maybe that puppy, it needs to get shots, it needs food to go from this little puppy to this big dog to grow. Well, that's growth capital. And then, that dog or a puppy, after it becomes this huge dog, has puppies of its own. And you think, oh my gosh, there's 10 puppies in our house. There's too many for us. I'm going to take one of these and sell it to our neighbor. Okay, that's the divestiture. So all these transactions that investment bankers help, everyone experiences them in their daily lives. They just have a different vocabulary word for it.
So are you, as an investment banker, physically loaning the money to the startup, or they're just managing transactions when all these things happen, or what? Explain that part.
And so there are different types of bankers, like a merchant bank or that might have their own capital that they can invest and deploy. But myself, as an investment banker, I manage and run processes or transactions. So if someone were to say, "Hey, we're looking for this much capital," say we're a company, we need $10 million to get from point A to point B. I would first go, okay, let's make sure this story is right, that whoever we go out to invest, because I mean, you're coming to us because that traditional bank has turned you down. They go, oh my gosh, this is too risky. It's not, we can't underwrite this, or
Right.
can't. We're it's beyond our risk appetite. So they're going to come to me, and I'll go, okay, this is great, but let's say this investor gives you 10 million. They are expecting this amount of return over this number of years. Does your financial models, does everything, your story that you have, does it make sense that when we
Mm.
talk to them, they're comfortable enough that it fits what they want? And we'll sit down and have those conversations and help model things out. And in a lot of situations, it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Not at all. Sometimes it does. And when it does and things align, then it's easy to go, okay, your company is, this company, and based on this investor's investment thesis, there's a match and we can align them. And then we make the connection through running a process. And that process, I'm not sure how much detail you want me to go into, but think of running a process almost like a dating app, right? At first, you put all your information in the app. So that would be like a data room.
Yeah.
Then that information goes into your profile or your marketing material. From that profile, you go out to the market and you start telling everyone you're single and you're looking and they're swiping left or right, depending. And then
Yeah.
you find that one that you start dating and hopefully you get married to. That's the same with the process of investment banking, of the data room, the market materials, go out, have conversations, find that one for due diligence, and then close.
Huh. It's interesting. Part of what you're describing sounds a little bit like a title company or an escrow, because
No,
when you're buying something and then there's an exchange of money and everybody's kind of checking to make sure it's all kosher before the
no,
before the
no.
money gets
Escrow is
released.
huge in the transactions. I mean, for the end and for the movement of money and that, and there's often a part that's held in escrow even past the transaction closure
Hmm.
in case bad things come up. The first year or so. So
Okay, so now, okay, so you've got all this amazing, wins and losses like any serial entrepreneur has, and you started this podcast. That's how I found you, which is kind of awesome. But then you're a week into this thing. So tell me what this thing is. At SVH Capital. What exactly is that?
oh, SVH Capital is the investment bank that I just launched. So
Okay,
yeah, if someone were to go, Sean, we're looking for to raise capital or to exit or to go public through a SPAC or any of those things you hear about, that would be run through SVH Capital. Uh,
right. So how do investment bankers, how do you make money? Is it like a percentage of the total investment money or something like that?
yeah, so it depends on the investment bank itself. Some will just work off success fees. Others, and this is very rare, will do an hourly. I mean, it's kind of an independent or a small group can decide how they charge. The majority, the vast majority, they'll charge some type of retainer fee, but the bulk of their income comes from the success. So it might
Hmm.
be 15 or 20% of what they would get from the retainer, the rest from the success. And then, some type of balance between that. Maybe
Hmm.
it's 90% or 70% success. It really depends. And a lot of the fees really depend on the project itself. If it's a slam dunk, no brainer, this is super easy, yeah, you can lower your fees. If it's going to be very challenging, you're low risk of execution, you better charge a little more for that.
Mm.
And the client in most cases, because they've been turned down from other investment banks, will go, okay, I understand the situation I'm in. I understand it is kind of a pay to play because every one project you're engaged with means it's taking time away from others. So it is a trade-off.
Oh, so okay, so that's interesting. So that kind of makes sense, and it kind of lines up with other what I've learned about I don't know, private equity or hedge fund managers, or there's this kind of percentage for operation capital management, that sort of stuff, where you're just taking a percentage, and then based on where you are in the world, that fee could be lower or higher
Yeah.
risk and all that stuff.
So it varies on kind of, I guess, little bit more detail, maybe two things. One, the transaction itself in the difficulty, but then also the size, right? $100 million transaction is not going to have the same percentage of a success as a $10 million transaction,
Mm.
right? The 10 million might be, say, 5%, whereas 100 million might be 2%. Who knows? I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers there just to give kind of a
Right.
reference. And the retainer fee for one might be 50K and the other 100K or 150. But,
Okay.
it's not necessarily dollar for dollar. There is kind of, okay, even though this transaction's larger, the amount of work that goes in may not necessarily be that much more than the smaller transaction.
Mm. Yeah. So uh all right. So okay, so I'm going to ask from now turn the tables around. So you've got this thing you've started. Now, how do you go out and find your clients or customers,
Oh,
I guess? Yeah.
well, podcast is a great way, to be honest. I I wrote an article not too long ago that was in the ACG. In fact, I actually have the magazine right here. It was ACG Dealmaker for your audience out there. If they want to go to page page 10, it's a two-page article on how speaking can elevate your M&A opportunities. Um, so it just basically, not too many people want to talk to an investment banker. Everyone wants to talk to a podcast host. That's, I
I
mean,
love
it
it.
could be someone's, funeral and be like, oh, whoa, I got an interview on a podcast. Hold on. I mean,
Right.
it could be a national holiday and it's like,
Yeah.
podcast, I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. So Shawn, thanks for joining me today. And how do people find out more about your new company and generally more about you and your podcast?
I mean, people are looking at the video of this. The QR code goes straight to my LinkedIn. That's a great way to connect with me. I mean, really, the best way I'd say is through LinkedIn. Or if you want to check out the podcast is the Silicon Valley Podcast.com, where you could look at all our archives and kind of what we're up to moving forward in the future. There's a lot of good information there, a lot of great guests. I mean, my goal is to create a reference library for anyone in the world to access Silicon Valley, and that's what, we're going to keep working on that goal. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good Memorial Day weekend.
You too. Thank you.